Live, red line goes across the screen. Looks like I might be live. The USA bullying against Venezuela. I'm Bernie Bro, and I shall give you my take on this. Let me start by saying my piece or my official position on Venezuela. I oppose the current United Socialist Party's government of President Nicolas Maduro. That's right, I do not support the government of Venezuela. I also do not support the USA bullying against Venezuela either. You can take both positions and be consistent. Since 1998, both Hugo Chavez and his successor, Nicolas Maduro, were democratically elected. I am no more happy with the people of Venezuela voting for Hugo Chavez or Nicolas Maduro than I would be with Israel voting for Benjamin Netanyahu, or Britain for electing Boris Johnson, or well, in Bolivia's case, deposing Evo Morales and putting in Janine Inez, who in her case, she's like Augusto Pinochet and Michelle Bachmann having a love child turning into a right wing porn star. That's what she reminds me of. I'm no more happy about Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines being elected, or Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil, or even our Donald Trump here in the USA. I no more will want to interfere with the affairs of other nations, than I would with Venezuela. But as an American, um, my concern is not just stopping Donald Trump. Stopping Donald Trump is the least we can do. He's a symptom, not the problem, but a symptom of a greater problem. Removing Donald Trump needs to take place. Removing the corporatist, neocon establishment Republicans, that needs to take place. And also removing the neolib corporatist Democrats. Donald Trump, Republicans, and corporate Democrats are all pretty much consistently the problem that exists currently in the United States. I want them all removed peacefully, democratically. That's how I want it done. But why does the USA bully Venezuela? One word: oil. It ain't over human rights. It isn't over, it isn't over human rights or what have you. But it all comes down to oil. If Venezuela was not rich in oil, the United States would not be bullying them. But then again, and second thought, the United States do like to fuck around with elected governments, and it would not have been the first time. Michael Manley's government in Jamaica during the 70s was fucked with by the CIA. And remember, the United States did assist in a violent coup in Chile in 1973 that replaced Salvador Allende with Augusto Pinochet. And sometimes it doesn't have to be overtly bloody. Um, Norman Kirk, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, the possibility of him being murdered by the CIA was considered something of debate at the time, because he was opposed to nuclear weapons testings in the South Pacific. So here's double standard. Now, I do not believe in any authoritarian government whatsoever. I don't care if it's an authoritarian left government, authoritarian right wing government. I don't like authoritarianism in any form. But United States, we go and coddle Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia that enables a radical terrorist actions against the West. United States looks the other way. Remember remember the big lie about the neocons when they said that Saddam Hussein played a role in 9/11 and attacked the United States and was assisting Osama bin Laden, which was really just stupid when you deep think about it. Why would a secular um, tyrant, a dictator like Saddam Hussein work with a radical fundamentalist like Osama bin Laden? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. So, but United States blamed the wrong country, attacked it, but then they coddle Saudi Arabia, a nation that executes people who lead the religion of Islam, a nation that treats women um, no more better than like a domestic pet, a nation which imposes the death penalty on homosexuality. That's Saudi Arabia. That's America's ally. But we go and fuck around in Venezuela and fuck around with the people of Venezuela. If I had a choice between living in Venezuela and living in Saudi Arabia, um, no contest, no contest. I mean, Venezuela government's more benevolent than the government of Saudi Arabia. They're not going around exterminating whole groups of people like Saudi Arabia, which is committing a genocide in Yemen, being indirectly sponsored by the United States government. Iran. I don't like the Iranian government. But you know what? They cause significantly less terrorism against the West than Saudi Arabia. And we go and we seize their money. We go and one of the few good things Obama did was I have a nuclear arms treaty with Iran, trying to deter them from becoming a nuclear weapons power. Yeah, I don't want Iran having nuclear weapons. I don't want the United States having nuclear weapons. I don't want any country having nuclear weapons. So it was a good treaty. It wasn't a perfect treaty, but it's a hell of a lot better than the current Trump administration's attitude of, just antagonism for the sake of antagonism against Iran, just to please secular neocons in the United States and Christian fundamentalists who listens to John Hagee, who wants to go and have a war with Iran. That's all it's about, folks. That is all it's about with this Iran thing. And let's not forget Cambodia during the 1980s, when I believe it was in '79, the Vietnam came in and liberated the people of Cambodia from the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot's government. You know, uh, and the United States weren't not exactly on the side of the Khmer Rouge, but they were in allegiance with factions who were in allegiance with the Khmer Rouge, just to chase the Vietnamese government's influence. And then let's not forget what caused 9/11 to begin with. Going back to the 1980s, and when both Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan decided to support right wing rebels in Afghanistan because, oh no, those Soviets coming in there, with their influence. Again, some things are worse than communism. And in Afghanistan's case, I would say that radical Islam is worse than communism. And I don't particularly like communism. But that's the United States in a nutshell, being wrong on policy, foreign policy, and later on suffering from the repercussions of it. It's just astounding how the United States love to keep repeating its mistakes. But there is also a heavy degree of irony with the current situation with Venezuela. Remember when Donald Trump decided that Juan Guaido, I can't pronounce his name right, is the official president of Venezuela? Well, there's a lot of irony because you hear often from right wing hacks the same argument is you want to go and domestically do something for the poor, help the poor. You want to go and have a single payer Medicare for all system. Whoa, you just want to be just like Venezuela. All you liberals, you just want to turn America into Venezuela. Venezuela, Venezuela. Venezuela. That's what they do over there in socialist Venezuela. Venezuela is not a socialist country. It is basically still a capitalist economy being ruled by an incompetent communist political party, but is still democratic uh, because there is an opposition in Venezuela. Some of them are right wing and horrific. Some of them are okay. I mean, groups like Democratic Action, Movement for Socialism, that they are officially opposed to the current government. But if you want to talk about what you think a socialist country is by the metrics of quote unquote bigger government, the government of Denmark is more status in an economy than Venezuela. Venezuela doesn't even have universal health care. They might have some public clinics, but there is no universal health care in Venezuela. And all the suffering that's going on in Venezuela right now, and it's there, but it's because of mounting pressure by the U.S. government. The U.S. government kicking them while they're down. So, and same thing with Cuba. I'm not a fan of Fidel Castro nor his successor, Raul Castro. But here's the thing, both Venezuela and Cuba have been constantly, perpetually bullied by the United States. And in Cuba's case, communism, as we know it in Cuba, could go away peacefully overnight, just about, if the United States would have treated Cuba as good as it's been treating China all these years. And that's another thing. Some communist countries' systems are more brutal than others. They're all brutal. I don't believe in any form of Marxist Leninism. However, Cuba's brand of communism is less brutal against the people currently than the current Chinese government's brand of communism against the people of China. Just like in Vietnam, their version of communism was significantly less cruel than the kind that existed under Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge. And remember Yugoslavia's government under Field Marshal Tito's, when they started to democratize, it became their government became so democratic it was almost a Western capitalist democracy. But here's the thing: Juan Guaido belongs to the Popular Will Party. The Popular Will Party is another social democratic party that exists in Venezuela. They're technically the same kind of people Bernie Sanders movement is here in the United States, or the Labour Party is in the UK, or the Social Democrats in Sweden. But here in the United States, a political party over there that wants to do the same thing to Venezuela as Bernie Sanders or AOC wants to do here. The United States says, well, they're okay in Venezuela, but then claim that Bernie Sanders and AOC is trying to turn America into Venezuela, when really Bernie Sanders and AOC is trying to turn this country more into Norway and Sweden. We need to end the bullying against the people of Venezuela. I don't support the government of Venezuela, but I make it very, very clear. I also oppose Donald Trump's bullying against Venezuela. And I make no apologies for that. If you like or dislike what you heard, you can like it or dislike it. Feel free to comment, tell your friends about this channel. And thank you once again. I'm Bernie Bro. We'll have a conversation soon.